Hello everyone to another Age of Fantasy Skirmish 250 points battle report played last Friday at my War Games Club, the Tin Soldier of Antwerp, and facing me was Andy. So we have 250 points, Havoc Dwarfs versus Beastmen lists, and he fielded a very big-themed army of Beastmen made up by figures from War Machine, the old minions, War Machine hordes, the old minions range of the Pharaohs. And admit that my flamethrower was out to make a barbecue. My army was the same as the one used in the previous game against Wood Elves, meaning a caster 2 Abyssal Leader, a flamethrower weapon team, 2 Sentinel Centaurs, 2 units of 3 warriors and a unit of 3 cultists. And on Andy's force we had an Undoli Beast Lord with a Bestial Boost aura, 3 Undoli Elites, so that's 3 units of 1 figure, and 2 units of 3 Undoli Warriors together with a Kemba Brute. And the leader and the brute hit like a train, so my focus will be on taking out the Undoli warriors as soon as possible and start forcing morale checks on his force as a result. Let's hope the blast of the weapons team does do some good things, while the cultists will be used to sneak around and draw some of his forces hopefully away. And that brought us to our first game. You'll see why I'm calling it the first game later on. But he brought his newest purchase, a set from tenfold terrain boxes, along to try out the field of battle, and so both sides deployed on the sparkling new terrain, ready to face off. Fate had dealt 4 objectives to the table, and the game was on. The cultists had deployed close to the objective on my right, and so I was posing threats all over the ones that were on my side as a result. The Beastmen moved forward to confront the cultists, but those were soon joined by the Sentinel Centaurs to try and push that attack off. While in the meantime the flamethrower weapon team, who would become known as the Bacon Burner over the evening, took down the first of the advancing Beastmen on that flank. This all resulted after the first turn in a standoff as the Beastmen prepared to pounce on a variety of objectives, while the Havoc Dwarfs battered down to defend them in the end. While the Beastmen leads came in, the last of the regular warriors was pummeled to death by a pile of thrown rocks from the cultists, because nobody messes with hobgoblins. But soon they were charged by his leader, resulting in one of the cultists nearly immediately biting the dust. In the meantime, more of his warriors assaulted the Havoc Dwarfs' objective at the building, but the Havoc Dwarfs charged them, taking one of the pig-faced beasts out. And then in a counterattack of being so-called fatigued, the Havoc Dwarfs got their second wind, and with 2 6s and failed saves and wound checks on his side, smashed the rest of the unit into the dust and under an iron shot boot. With the round closing, the Havoc Dwarfs still had solid control over 2 objectives, compared to a single one for the Beastmen. The one on the right flank though was starting to become a real hit point for the fight, with multiple units exchanging blows, and the cultists there kept holding out for some reason. And while they held out, the Sentinel Centaurs took down one of the elites. Eventually though, the last of the cultists fell to the bestial blows, while one of his elites just refused to die after taking a serious pounding and magical barrage hits. On the other side of the board, his injured brute was beset by both units of Havoc Dwarf warriors, and the score remained status quo with 2 objectives for the Havoc Dwarfs and a single one for the Beastmen. Over on the contested one though, the round started with an armored bulk of a Sentinel Centaur crashing into his leader and trampling the big beast underneath its hooves. One of his elites tried to take revenge but missed the Sentinel Centaur. Fatigued, he swung his huge hammer back at the wild warrior and duly crushed its skull in. The other Sentinel Centaur wasn't as lucky however, and was swiftly cut down by the last of his elite warriors, leaving the objective contested. The warriors did away though with his brute in the center of the table, as the Bacon Burner shot down that final elite, and this left a battle to the Havoc Dwarfs, with the enemy totally annihilated and 3 out of the 4 objectives under their control. Victory for Hashoot. And that brought us to game 2, as the first game had only taken about 40 minutes, we went in for a rematch. This time with 5 objectives being generated. Once again, the cultists appeared right next to an objective on my far right, as the Beastmen took a more grouped together approach. Soon though, forces started swarming left and right to contest various points. Barely any casualties caused bar 2 of his warriors from a flamethrower burst. The Havoc Dwarfs controlled 3 objectives after the first turn, compared to a single one for the Beastmen, while on the left a battle began for the 5th. The second turn began over there, with the Sentinel Centaur taking down one of the elites in a charge. His brute however charged to the faraway objective, trying to take down the Sentinel guarding it, but failed in doing so and took a wounding return as the mighty beast held. In the center, his leader took down 2 Havoc Dwarf warriors as my caster and my bacon burner drew eyes on him to try and keep the situation in check. And away on the other flank, the second unit of Havoc Dwarf warriors and the cultists were involved in a fight with 2 elites, one being taken down by the warriors as a cultist fell to the other big savage warrior. The second Sentinel Centaur left the brute alone, and with a lucky hit smashed the elite on that flank down to keep control of the objective. As on the right flank the cultists, and as I said, nobody messes with hobgoblins, cut down the other elite, the Havoc Dwarfs remained in the lead controlling 2 objectives against 1, but the big Beastmen were seriously battered. However, the battle had also shifted as such that it was doubtful the Sentinel Centaurs would play any role in it anymore. The final round didn't see much action, with the Rune of Darkness disintegrating an elite as about the only thing happening. However, due to damage inflicted on his forces, he had to take morale shakes, and his leader, who was shaken after being hit by a Rune of Darkness, legged it to come back another day. And this resulted in the Beastmen only having a seriously wounded brute on the table as a round ended, but the Havoc Dwarfs controlling all 5 of the objectives, claiming a second, very solid victory. And that went on game 3, with the best of 3, which doesn't make any sense, but we called it that. And still not giving up, and the previous game also having taken about half an hour, and they challenged me to a third and final encounter. The forces deployed once more on the table, containing now 4 objectives. And the Bacon Burner lived up to its name, reducing 3-man units to a single model, each together with the spell barrage of the caster, but not scratching the brute though. At the end of the first round, the Havoc Dwarfs now controlled 2 objectives against 1 for the Beastmen, and looked in a solid defensive position as the Beastmen have the first activation now. After causing so much grief and burn marks, the Bacon Burner now became his center of attention though, with the brute lumbering down on it. The score however remained unchanged, as some cultists had fallen to his leader, but one still held on to contest his central objective. But it was not to last, as he was smashed to a puddle of ooze by the big Beastman leader pretty convincingly. The warrior stepped in to occupy his leader as a result and prevent him from taking up the objective, while the other flank on the second unit of warriors and a sentinel kept his flanking move in check. As a result, after the third turn, the score still remained at 2 for the Havoc Dwarfs and 1 for the Beastmen. The battle with his leader would prove to be the all-deciding one for the outcome. My caster stepped in to try and take out his leader, managing to shake with the Rune of Darkness as his armor started to disintegrate under the Eldritch Assault, and my remaining warriors had been shaken by the big guy. This meant his leader couldn't contest the objective anymore, and victory was secured now. However, on the other side, the Sentinel Centaur took down his elite to prevent any last-moment shenanigans, as the Bacon Burner had fallen to the brute, who had later been finished off by the Rune of Darkness spell from earlier, meaning only his leader was left on the field, and as he was shaken, he legged it for the second time in a row against the bullying violence of the Havoc Dwarfs, who took victory by claiming 2 objectives to 1. And so we ended 3 games of Skirmish in about 2 hours, including quite a lot of breaks as it was warm, and the cool breeze outside was more than welcome. The difference in this game was mostly due to my preference to play on morale instead of hard strikes, and paid off in all the games, scoring the Havoc Dwarfs a hat-trick. Heck, even with in total 12 turns played, the Havoc Dwarfs have never even been tied or behind on objective control, so that went pretty smooth all things considered, though having 2 blast effects went a long way. And now all that remains is to find some Horde Pharaoh minions to add 3 Beastmen to the Trophy Slaves unit and paint those ugly buggers up in the color scheme of their much less ugly pig-faced player. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time with more battle reports and hopefully a lot of fun. Take care and bye bye. For watching this video, and if you want to support me, check out the link tree above for all my channels so you can have a look there, or my affiliate links, so there's a little kickback to the channel for more content, and if you really like, you can always buy me a coffee. Thanks and bye bye.